You are listening to Fika with Vicky on United Public Radio, 107.7 and 105.3 from New Orleans.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fika. Our returning guests today are Michelle, Dorey, and Jim Moriarty. You may remember that they were here in October. Jim is not frozen. He is just acting that way. To try to throw me off, but I'm right on there, Jim. You are going to remember Jim and the lovely Michelle from last October when they were here to discuss The Hauntings of Kingston series. And we had so much fun that they're back again to talk about their Which Way series. You got it, which as in WITCH, which I'm calling fun, funny, and fantastical. Just the thing for these January dark skies, dreary to the bone, and gloomy days. I know not everyone's having the same weather I am, but even so, we all need a pick-me-up from time to time. And Which Ways is, I guarantee, is going to do just that. You don't have to go... You don't even have to go through the bother of deciding whether you want to read a vampire, an alien, and insert the mysterious character of your choice. Which Way has it all, baby. But don't let that don't let that fool into you thinking that that's all there are to these books. They have their own sense of wisdom, a way of talking to people who have lived some life so that they are nodding their heads in agreement and hoping that Amy has a massive learning curve. But once again, that could only be me. Thank you for filling my January with Stevie Nicks, moon dances, magic, and laughter, Michelle and Jim. And welcome back to Fika.
Thanks for having us. It's great to be back.
It's always fun.
Yeah, it is.
Despite some obstacles.
You got the tech working this time, Vicky.
Yeah.
We got the tech working. We did. And I have to apologize for sending you outside last time. But see, you made that little comment about it having to be a man that found a solution. And I just naturally said, keep on walking, Jim.
You are so not the first woman to kick me out.
Yeah, but it's Michelle's house. I should give her that privilege and enjoyment. So, yes, I have a nemesis with the same name as Sherlock Holmes. How did that work?
You want to know something really weird? I have a son-in-law named Watson.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm going to go talk to Watson about you and get the. I mean, he could write a book. He could be a writer. He could write about Jim Moriarty in a sort of like docu-series. Okay.
But this isn't about me. This is about the author.
It's about both of you because you both contribute to these books, correct?
Yes,
you write together.
Yeah.
And I think
her lackey.
Okay, anyways, moving on. On occasion, I'm going to say moving on. That means I'm ignoring Jim and just moving on.
Nice move.
Just so you have a heads up. So, as always, I'm going to ask you to give a little tiny synopsis of what this series is about, so people have an idea of what we're talking about.
Okay, the Which Way series is it's a tale about two sisters whose lives followed wildly different paths, but they reconnect. The older sister, she is a single mom who waits tables at Denny's, while her younger sister, Marin, she's got a life as a housewife, a mother, and a very lucrative real estate business. And when the older sister experiences a life crisis, she reaches out to her young sister, only to discover that she's going through her own crisis. And even though they have kind of drifted apart because they have kind of different socioeconomic statuses, they rally together to support one another when times get tough. So the older sister is very whimsical and free-spirited, and she convinces her younger conventional sister they need to go on a road trip. They need to reconnect and have some fun and put the crap behind them a bit. So anyways, they purchased a secondhand RV, and then they set off over through northern New York. And they're in Virginia when they have a really kind of spooky, bizarre experience, and they wake up and everything has changed. That nothing is the same. They discover magic in the world, and that the fact that it's real magic. It's not some floor cleaner or anything. It's magic, and they're gobsmacked by this. But Marin is the first to experience the weird and wild. She sees fairies, she can talk to them, and she's just gobsmacked. And there's werewolves and a vampire who has a drinking problem. and
we're not talking that the problem isn't blood with his drinking.
Oh no.
So
no, it isn't. It's a conventional drinking kind. But anyhow, these magical beings that they now encounter, they're like anyone else. They have flaws and like normal people, and there's a brawl between two competing factions that the two sisters get kind of caught up in, and it gets a little bit scary for them because not everyone likes witches. So it's a pretty fun it's a fun series to read.
It is definitely, like I said, you want a little lift, you want to laugh, you want to remember things, you just want to, and a road trip is always the best. I mean, we all, not all of us, but
Michelle and I love road trips.
Right. And just making the playlist for a road trip.
Yeah.
It's fun in itself, right?
Yeah,
You're just all of the prep and all of the getting it together and the thinking, and things happen if you allow yourself to go off the beaten track. Their life happens in those moments. So I find it very believable that they would I mean, not to the extent that they do, but that they found some growth, some interesting growth and patterns.
Can I interject something?
Yes.
Later on in the series, Marin and Kara end up in Salem. And
so,
for researching that book, Michelle and I had a road trip, and we spent a few days in Salem, Massachusetts. And it was just going to Salem and then returning home from Salem was just so incredibly enjoyable.
Yeah.
And did you go in the autumn?
Yes. Yeah, we went. It was before Halloween, but like Salem was all decked out, just totally Halloween.
The road trips rock.
And the leaves had changed.
Oh yeah. It was in October.
Yeah. So, well, sometimes, you go further. I mean, but mass isn't. So it depends on the year and stuff, Jim. I mean, you can't be sure. Absolutely sure. So I ask. Excuse me. So I ask. It's okay.
Moving along.
I will not be throwing off my path. No, because this is my 52nd episode. So pretty close to we have survived a year despite some of the guests. And we have survived the year. And at the beginning on my first show, I said that I wanted to have real witches on the show and then also fictional books about witches. And I haven't really done a lot of fictional witches. So this is perfect.
Yeah.
So it would be, because so when we talk about Salem, we are talking about the fictional witches experience of Salem and where you still run into, I'm sure, did they run into a little negativity, or were they from the past, or were they embraced in the by the group today? I mean, because that's the place for witches to go.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
In North America, it is.
Yeah.
I hear a party, so it's.
Oh, it's fun. Oh yeah,
Wonderful.
it's like it's a parade every night. Yeah.
Yeah,
Everybody
and
dressed up, and
one
it
of
is
our best
amazing.
road trips.
Yeah, it was.
I mean,
It was so much fun.
the shops in that must have been incredible.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Forget about it.
Did you drop a lot? I mean, I've come to the point in my life where it's like, do I have room for that? You know, so it sort of drops the spontaneous. Do my kids want to deal with that after I?
No, I think the biggest thing we came back with, sweetheart, and correct me if I'm wrong, was your hat, your witch's hat.
Oh, a few souvenirs for my daughter, but yeah, the witch's
Yeah.
hat was just, it was like, it's like authentic Salem.
You couldn't pass that up. Now I want to go get one. I mean, that's a big part of your writing experience, though. You guys love to go on road trips, and that sort of always feeds back into your writing. Like, I've spent, like I said, a lot of time going down the eastern coast, and I could just check off the towns and stuff that you talk about in the trip. Okay, now we're going through there and recognizing some things and stuff. So it is a part.
We call that research.
You call that research. It's more, it's fun out there research. It's not sitting in front of the computer library research. And I think that the real experience does make a lot of difference in writing, possibly, because you know what it's like to pull onto that beach and smell that fry truck and after driving, you know what it's like to be tired after driving for a long time, or looking for a campsite, or whatever. So do you guys have a camper, or do you just go to motels?
No, we just do the motel route. Yeah. No.
My idea of roughing it is a hotel with no room service.
Well, you do come from the city, okay? That big old city of New York down in the Bronx. So there's not a lot of camping opportunities right within that.
Thank God. I did it twice.
And that was never
that
twice.
Was fine.
Okay. Now, I was going to say, okay. So when it comes to writing, if people can't remember last time or whatever, you were saying that Jim writes the more emotional parts.
Yes.
And you write more the story, moving it along, the plot and things like that. And was that the same with this book?
Yeah, it's pretty well. It's just the way we are. Like, I'm kind of a staid Canadian, whereas he's a New Yorker, and much more emotional, and a lot of scenes that I write, then he will go into it, and he'll just add this, that, or the other thing, because as he's always reminding me, we sell feelings, Michelle. That's why readers want to pick up their book. They want to feel for a character. So he adds that little extra oomph.
So when I say that, you guys, there's a sense of wisdom to these books. Now, when we talked about your Haunting of Kingston series, and we talked about in that series that classism does breed violence, because that was back in the 1800s, and there was very much, you're here, you're the kitchen wench, we don't meet, and you're nothing. I found that there was a lesson, like just in the first book. I have to complete the second book as well, that there was. And we have talked about how your characters do have learning curves. And there are reasons there's a lot of thought that goes into these characters and who they are as people and what has influenced them. So are these bits of wisdom part of important to you in your writing, or do they just show up because that's a part of who you are?
We don't really like in terms of life lessons or a message. It doesn't really start out that way, but when you're creating a character, you have a certain type. You know what this character is all about. What their beliefs are, misbeliefs are, their insecurities, their strength, and the character more or less in the story. I've got a story structure, but a lot of times the character will kind of take a life of their own. They'll start talking to me. and
No, that's there's nothing wrong with you, Michelle. That's not mysterious. That happens to all the authors, I think.
Oh yeah, and when it happens, it's lovely. And yeah, and if there's a message or a theme, whatever that comes through, it comes through with the character. During the story. Yeah.
Well, that's it. I don't want people to think that these lessons are obvious or heavy-handed or judgy or preachy in any way. I have no tolerance for that. But I do like to see that little, that little change in the character. I think it's important. I think not every character, but there has to be some growth there whatsoever. Yeah. What I think anyways.
It happens as a natural progression of the character's story arc. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. I don't think we've ever, Michelle, started a book with a message. But
that's not what I mean.
At the end of but in the course of the book, we find that there is normally a common theme. And as we researched the book itself that we're working on, but then also we belong to many writers groups, and you find it all over and over again that you can take, if you found a really good movie, if you read a really good book, you will see at the end of the book, you can say, well, what's that book about? And you'll be able to say what the theme is. And but it's so deep, and we always find it when we're about halfway through, Michelle, when we sit down and we do the revamp and we do the final outcomes that we're going for. That's when we use about the halfway mark, when we have our discussions and meetings back and forth. That's when we land. Oh, this is the theme. And then we can write to that. But it always starts out with, what if two sisters who had been somewhat estranged got together on a road trip, and then what happens to them? So you have the plot, then you have the characters, and if you did everything well up front, it just naturally comes out.
It is a natural process, because in life, our lessons are a natural process, right? Mm-hmm. And once again, I don't want it to make it sound like because some people are like, lessons, ooh, but no, not today, Charlie. Excuse me, but I do like looking deeper into the book. I do like finding that thing. That's sort of like my thing. And when it hits, I mean, I'm not looking the whole time. I'm enjoying the story and hating on some of the characters and whatever. But when it does come, it's just like when it does come, it's a nice thing to see. It's sort of like the icing on the top of the cake, and I think you guys do that so well. I'm just like, ooh, I like that. So Michelle, you do that so well.
Oh, thank you.
I do take suggestions when they are warranted. Michelle is your thing. Which I should say, these books are written under Shelley Dorey.
Yes.
So if you're looking them up, make sure you put Shelley Dorey in there, and you will find the haunted books under Michelle Dorey's website.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, they're both actually. If you visit my website, michelledorey.com, I have both pen names featured there. Yeah.
And they are, the hauntings are serious because they're hauntings. and you have to go
Suki.
through. Yes, and you have to go through the. I mean, they always start with someone's death, so you can have someone to haunt, right?
Yeah, yeah. You have to have
someone
a
to do.
you have to have a dead body somewhere, way back then. Or,
There's nowhere getting past that. So then, usually that's a sad story, which is the reason why they come back. And there is a lot of research in those books. And so it's just interesting that you can write that and then you can turn around and write
fun books.
funny books.
Yeah.
And I think I love it when writers are not afraid to put in, pop culture. Okay. To me, that makes it even more real. So, you have t-shirts with certain people, mentions, just some of the things that you tied up together that once they were done, I read them. I was like, oh, that's perfect. I didn't think of that, but let's just say there was a little Van Morrison going on this week.
Yes.
So, as well. So, I mean, that's so great. And for people that remember that or whatever, it just makes them feel comfortable. I think it's a very
Yes.
comfortable book. I don't think it makes anybody feel, they're waiting for something. They're just good. They're just good, fun books.
Yeah, they're fun books.
And so obviously you have I was talking about this last time. I was like, I think these people are so happy up there in Kingston because they just seem to be having such a good time. And you guys produce a lot of work together. Like, I think I counted 3 last year.
Yes. Yeah, there were 3 books last year. Yes.
And so there's what is there, 6 series that you've done, and plus some individuals, or
there's not very many standalones. They're mostly books in series. In this genre, which is the paranormal women's fantasy genre, we have let me see, Mystical Veil, the Witch Way series, the Hex After 40, the Celtic Knot series, and also the one
Harmony Grove.
The Harmony Grove, which I'm about a third of the way through my 3rd book in that series. Yeah.
And the Legacy.
The Legacy, yes. The Legacy is actually the Mystical Veil series. That one was,
okay.
That was written before I got into paranormal women's fiction. And it features a younger protagonist, a heroine, and she has paranormal ability. She's actually like a ghost whisperer. But it's a younger generation, but it's a very popular series.
I only read the first one, but I loved it. And I think it's important to read books with variously different aged characters.
I think you'll love the way that series ends.
I already have more feeling for that character than I do for Amy. I was reading, trying to get in here and just to slide into the thing, and I was just like, oh, don't read about Amy right before you go on.
Can I make a point here?
Yes.
As Michelle said earlier, one of the things that we do, that we focus on, is we sell feelings. And the feeling of frustration or resentment or anger that you feel towards Amy is actually, it's indicative of how good a writer she is.
Yeah.
No. It's absolutely true. If I didn't care about the book, I wouldn't have these feelings for Amy.
Exactly.
But I didn't want her to overpower the entire interior, which she's doing anyway. She's not even one of the protagonists. She's just a side character. But I don't. Anyways, enough about Amy. She'll come up again. I know she will pop up again because obviously
maybe we should do a series about Amy.
You don't want to drive me that crazy. No, your characters do. When I visualize the book, okay, when I'm reading it. So if I can visualize the characters and I can get inside the relationships and I can say between the sisters, Marin and Kara, I'm Team Kara because that's the way it is. And I realize they're getting back together and they're forgiving their past discretions, but that doesn't mean I have to.
No.
So I've been known to yell at characters out loud.
Good.
So it is. I mean, that's why I do this show. I've got to find out what's going on behind these characters. All right, I can't leave it at the book. All right? Yeah. So it is very well character driven. The plot, the scenes, like I said, I can visualize, we'll just say, the RV pulling up to a beach, in summer with families there, and the fry truck and the little convenience store. I can see it, I can smell it, I am there.
Oh,
and
that's
that is so I have them pictured. And okay, there he is. I'm sorry. I was reading a note and I'm making it bigger because I have to get a new bifocal prescription. Okay. So the hysteria husband who is always about history would like to know if has Kingston, okay, David, hey now. Kingston has the SS Keewatin ship. Be cool to add that to a future book.
Yes, it would be actually, yeah.
We're not saying anything about that because because the Keewatin is actually at a very small seminal stage. It hasn't gotten through the first hurdle, but tell your husband that.
Well, you can tell him. If
that was your husband, because if that was your husband, holy Toledo, he looks like he's in his 30s. So what have you been
he did before he dyed his hair white.
The Santa Claus,
just out of an urge to do that.
That's a killer picture. So, I thought I had a good picture. That guy has a killer picture.
Okay, so you're Team Dave. All right, we're on.
Michelle,
Michelle, I'm giving you a call. We're going out for dinner. We have things to talk about.
Yes, for sure.
We have things to talk about. Okay. And once again, I say, as a disclaimer, I do love him. All right. So you're so obviously you're paranormal fans. I mean, all of these books are from the ghosts to the witches, vampires, elves. Yeah. They're all. What are some of your favorite books or shows, just so that people can check them out? Or
I like The Lord of the Rings. Like, I read that when I was a teenager, and the movies were great. And Practical Magic was good. Witches of Eastwick, I like that as well. And of course, anything that comes on that has to do with haunted houses or whatever, I'm all over that, of course. But that's pretty well it. Game of Thrones, but that's not as much fantasy. But
So I'm a huge Lord of the Rings. Fans.
Yeah.
As it just, I mean, I don't even care how they interpreted the books. Just being in a theater in the middle of that was like living there. So it wasn't. Yeah. So does this mean that you have a crush on a certain or was that just a character in the book?
No, it's just a character, I think.
And Jim, is Michelle just a paranormal fan, or are you as well? Like, is that one of the things?
I enjoy a good fantasy. I preferred Game of Thrones, the first 5 seasons, to Lord of the Rings. I was never a fan of Tolkien's writing, but I read all of it. But the production of Game of Thrones I'm a guy, so give me some battle scenes and stuff like that, and I really got a charge out of that. For me, it's interesting, and I only just thought of it just now. We both really enjoyed TV series by Julian Fellowes, Downton Abbey.
Oh,
and his current series that he's got going, which is The Gilded Age. Those provided a lot of backstory for that first haunting of Kingston's, the Crawley House, the haunting of Crawley House. Just watching the interplay between the upstairs high class and then the working class that were downstairs. Yeah. So that we really enjoyed that. And in terms of my entertainment reading, aside from what I just described, John Grisham books are something that I really enjoy as well, the lawyer type of books. But in terms of fantasy fiction,
that's more Michelle's.
I liked Twilight. I enjoyed Twilight. So
yeah.
And The Hunger Games. I enjoyed those two series.
Yeah, that was good too.
Oh, so you would take Amy's side.
I'm like, yeah.
So, Michelle,
we could take a walk. Me and Amy could take a walk around the block.
Michelle,
yes,
I love your books, but please never make your vampire sparkly.
Oh no, no, I don't think so. I'd rather have to give them a drinking problem.
Yeah, he can get over that. It's hard to lose the sparkles, right?
Yeah,
but he can be encouraged to move on from that. But I can see with the history in that, I can really see, as soon as you said Downton Abbey, I can really see that in the research and in doing for any 19th century kind of kind of thing, and the feelings between the different characters. So yeah, that works for me. Twilight.
Not so much.
Not that I have a disclaimer here. I respect everyone's right to every kind of reader is my kind of reader. I just, have some thoughts sometimes. I'm not disparaging of anyone who likes certain kinds of vampire books, but I'm more of the Dracula.
Oh yeah.
Kind of thing. So we have the book Legacy. And you said the Mystical Veil, which it has a younger character, but most of your books do have characters in their 40s, right? Which is, have you ever thought of taking that leap to the retirement readers out there, or having a character that's like a senior, 65 or whatever?
I might. I can see myself doing that maybe down the road. But the series that I'm writing right now, the Harmony Grove, Midlife in Harmony Grove, it actually spans 4 generations of witches, and I have one that is really elderly, who's the leader of the covens, who's such a character. She's very, very humorous, and her daughter is much more staid. It's fun to write a character that's, it's not as common. There's a lot of characters that are in their 20s, whatever, but writing somebody who is much, much older, and then going down the generations, and what are their frame of references as well, because each, they're all going to have different expressions, whatever, and the interplay between the generations it's fun to write as well. But the Harmony Grove series, it's basically 2 covens of witches in a small northern town, and the friction between the covens, and of course there's a ton of magic as well, but it's the character development in that is prime in that series, like the interplay between the characters, or what happens to them, the kitchen sinks you throw at them, and how they have to grow and handle. It's a good series.
No, it sounds like it, and I can see how you would do that well because you do know your characters, and you do, and the interaction and interplay between them would I'm sure be interesting, because there does have to be that research. What was it like for people growing up in the 70s, or what was it? I mean, if you don't
That's the easy part.
live that if you're of a certain age, but I mean, it's great because that's like having, if you're doing a younger character, you have to look that up and you get to know what all the new music is. When you stood there and said, I don't know what's wrong with these people, I'm going to always listen to what's popular today in music. We all said that. And do we know what's popular today?
No,
Do we like it? We don't even know. We did it. We forgot that vow. So this allows.
Not all of us. I like Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift. Yes. Oh my gosh, you should, because never mind. When my husband was driving, he lost his Sirius radio for a while. It wasn't working.
Oh.
And so he was listening to regular radio, and he was developing all these new songs.
Oh.
New favorite songs. I was like, no, but Vicky, you have to listen to this. So I can, no, you shall never meet. Michelle and I can meet anytime, Michelle.
Sure. Wait, how about that way? My next road trip.
You can pop them somewhere while. But
I'm outnumbered.
Oh, poor. So anyhow, moving on. Moving on. I think that's a very interesting premise for a series, and I need to definitely check that out. But I do think there's becoming more of a readership. You said there's an elderly character in there, but I do think as this generation, an older generation grows, I know a lot of authors that are, sort of, because that you're getting that experience. The younger writers don't know of being older and what that is, what that is like.
But there is a looking at some Facebook groups of following other authors that write paranormal women's fiction. A lot of the comments from the people, like, I'm sick of reading about a 20-year-old heroine who's, she's got all the answers and she's saving the world. And it's like that, it's not real at all realistic, even in fantasy. But if you got
that would be a fantasy.
Yeah, no kidding. But if you've got a woman that's she's been kicked around a little bit by life, divorce, or kids have grown up, she's raised them, and that's a challenge. Like, she's more of a kick-ass heroine, and she's an interesting character, and you can see that the potential is there for her. Like, if the world needs saving, I'd rather trust her than a 20-year-old.
No, exactly. Like, I mean, there was a time with the Gothic novels and that where they were all these innocent little things, showing up in the castle, and oh dear, what is happening to me? I guess so. It does get really boring after a while, but it does to hear, and they have life stories. I mean, you say that your characters talk to you. I think any good author, whether it shows up in the book or whatever, knows exactly what happened to their characters in the past and why they are the way that they are in order to keep them on the trail. So they have all this past life experience and these things to fall on. So I am really enjoying watching some of these books, which you don't have 20-year-olds, you have 40-year-olds, and you have and I would like to point out that depending on when you did certain things in your life, like Marin and Kara were obviously very young when they got married and had children. Like right, because
early 20s.
Because in the 40s. But if you were like 30 when you did that, you could change that whole thing to the 50s. right?
Oh,
To being in your
easily,
50s, because
easily.
yeah, no. So a lot of things aren't just chronological age, but the age at which you have experienced different things
Yeah.
in your life. So you yeah, definitely. And also, you know, when if there are children involved, when they decide to leave the nest, and empty nest and comes in, or when you decide to retire, whether it's early or older, you know, those ages get to merge because it's the experiences that
Yeah. Yes.
that they work with. So I found I found I found the the midlife magical mystery tour. I got it out. I'm just going to call it MMT from now on.
Yeah, it's definitely a mouthful.
Yes, I found it very relevant to even my life, or just like looking back a few years.
Yeah.
And to do and that. So it is, but it is good to have these kick-ass older women who have lived life. And I think it shouldn't be women's fiction. I think it should be everybody's fiction, because I think it would do some people good to read this, to see what it's actually like to be an older woman.
Yeah.
And obviously there's male writing involved in here, so I say, guys, give this a chance.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Hey, I read Twilight.
And you like Twilight. I'm really having a hard time. I'm having a hard time, you know, joining this. It's
I'm a
just
man of many facets, baby. What can I tell you?
but I do understand the Tolkien thing, because as I have volunteered on here before, I have never actually read the third in the book, in the trilogy, because for me he's too descriptive, and it's great. It takes genius. I mean, he made worlds, he made languages, but I found myself too much like going through the wonderful mountain scenes, to get to the action and the dialogue. And can
I make a point? When those books were published, we didn't have television. You had a movie, and special effects were virtually non-existent. And so the only way that you could, like, they had to overdose us with the flowery prose, or whatever you wanted to call it, because that's all that they had available to them, which actually made it quite easy for the guy making the movies, because he had it all laid out for him. But it is definitely a lot of material. And like I said, he is a genius. But the type of reader I am, even now, there are books that will go on where I am, obviously, I want to know what's behind the characters, why they're living the lives they're living, and putting their labels in there. So if I can understand, yes, thank you for understanding, and I will understand the Twilight attraction, and then we can get along admirably. Okay, so because I think you guys are going to write no matter what, and there's not going to be any there's just an interesting thing now. As writers, people sometimes come up with an idea and they say, oh, that idea has been done 1,000 times. Well, there isn't an idea out there that hasn't been done 1,000 times, because there are only so many basic locations and tropes and things that you can do. So a road trip book has been done like many times, but it's not out of Michelle's voice and planning and Jim's emotions. Still having trouble because so this is how, when you come across something like this, does it deter you at all? Is there anything that deters you guys from writing? Because 3 books a year, that's 5 sometimes. Sometimes 6. When we were really turning and burning, we would write 6 books a year.
Yeah. I don't know. There sometimes, like, we'll kick around an idea, a premise for a story, and like
Shelley?
as
Shelley? The Tremblant book, the Tremblant haunting book.
Oh yes,
Perfect example.
That's true. That one never got written rather. Yeah, because we ski at Tremblant, and it's an amazing place, and there's an amazing
For listeners,
story.
Mont Tremblant is the biggest ski hill in the East Coast. They have World Cup races there. It's in Quebec, and it's the highest peak on the East Coast. It's a bigger hill than anything you'll find in Vermont or New Hampshire. And it's Michelle and I, we try to get up there every ski season, at least 2, if not 3 times. So
you usually go in February, right? You mentioned, yeah.
Yes, but that, I think, Shelley, I think that's a perfect example of a book idea that we just could not get off the ground.
No, and yet the story behind it, the person who built the Mont Tremblant and his tragic death, which is a little bit of a mystery, and his
Everything's
story
right there.
There was so much there, and we kicked that idea around
For years.
For years. How do we pull it all together? And it never materialized. Haven't sat down. No, and yet it has the potential of being a great story. But there's just a few pieces that are missing that we can't just elude us, that to wind it all together, into a novel. But so that's one thing. It's just sometimes you can't get a story together.
So have you totally given up on it? Is it something?
Oh no, I have a file here that's an inch thick.
So it may be revisited at a later time.
Oh yeah.
So
we never throw an idea away.
No.
So bringing that up, do you think that sometimes there is the right time to write a novel?
I think so.
Yes, absolutely.
For the author, you're in the right mood. Just like there's the book to be read at that time, right? Like this book is October is perfect for the ghostly kind of things. Right now you're looking for something a little sunnier and more upbeat. So the same goes for writing.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. When it's ready, the book. Okay. There's something. Stephen King. A few people have heard of him. I think.
A few.
He wrote a book. He has a book that is. Here it is. It's called On Writing.
Oh, that's a fantastic book.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's the Bible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Stephen King, On Writing, and it's a memoir of the craft. One of the things that he really pushed in that book was the concept, and how many times have we said this, Shelley? The book is boss.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
if the book is ready to be written, we're going to know. It's going to tell us, and it's more a case of not as much of us creating something. It's more a case of us extracting the story, and that's
right. And it's respect for that story. You don't want to ruin it by not writing it. I mean, obviously, you guys think this is a great story, so you're wanting to be in the perfect frame of mind to write it.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on the back burner.
We have a question. Okay. Author Brian Grainer would like to know, do you ever feel the urge to dabble in shorter forms of fiction, example, novelettes and short stories? Some authors do that to explore side stories in the universe of their series. So in the Amy case, you could do a shorter little book just explaining Amy.
Yeah. We haven't written short form fiction. I've thought about it, but it's I don't think it's that easy to write a short story, and people who do it and do it well, like I admire them, but no, we haven't done that, but it might be something that we will do, just spin off characters, their backstory, whatever, it might happen. Yep.
It is. People don't understand that about short stories, that you're taking all of these ideas about beginning, ending, middle, plot, and squishing them to the most barest things. So, so in a lot of ways, you're still writing a big book because you need all that information.
Yeah, you still have the story arc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very insightful on your part, Vicky. The crafting of a short story, and short story is roughly 10,000 to 20,000 words on the outside, 15 to 25. Anyway, call it 15,000 words. You still have to be the amount of craftsmanship to get that in and to have it resonate with a reader in such a small space. That's a talent that, frankly, would take us a long time to develop. We spent 5 years paying our dues writing novels. We would have to spend another 2 to 3 years to be able to craft a short story, as well as some of the authors out there. Chris Rush, she is a genius with short stories, or Stephen King for that matter. That's how he made his bones in the craft when he started out, was writing short stories. For us, we went to novels, and we're glad we did. We enjoy the process, I think, Michelle.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, we do. We get to write.
That's an entirely different set of skills, or it's a set of skills that would require much more work on our part. That at our age,
29.
Yeah. 39.
A couple of anniversaries of 29. It's something that we just don't want to do.
I thought I'd be kind, despite the fact that some people are like, "Oh, he looks so young in his picture." Who is writing a whole novel for you in the comments section here? Okay, so I'll get to that, dearie. So that is important, because a lot of people look at short story writers and say, "Oh, they're just writing short stories," and it's not that way at all. But what you're saying is, there are some people who just like to find their zone and practice that zone and stick with that zone, because I think it's like decluttering your house or whatever. When you get to 29, when you get to a certain age, you sort of have to focus on the main things and work on them, because it is a lot of looking around out there and finding places for these things. But you have your niche and you have your marketing, and once again, you do put on occasion one of your new series at the end of another book, which I think is marvelous marketing, because it just brings that person right into that. For any of you indie authors out there, that's always a great choice. I would also like to point out that Brian's books are like Game of Thrones. Although he did write a haiku book.
Haiku? Really?
Haiku, yes. Brian has a haiku cat book out there. Which,
that's funny, because I was going to say, when we were on the topic of short stories, that if you really want to make your life hell, write poetry.
Oh my God.
And then unfortunately, it doesn't really have the market out there in modern society as a general rule. It has its so much work to make a good poem,
and even then to go to haiku, forget it.
But you're the emotional guy. You should be writing,
but I'm also lazy.
But you're also from New York, so somewhere in the poem will be like, "Get out of here." I shouldn't have done that. I apologize to everyone from.
It's get out of here.
Exactly. I can't do it. I can't do that. Okay, so for you guys or anybody out there looking for a show idea, Brian says, I have to that writing poetry is a great diversion and works well for personalized greeting cards. Which he makes. Yeah. You might want to join. Brian might want to join the club with you and Dave, because we have our moments as well. But he sends out these wonderful for people. He sends out these wonderful greeting cards, which are very kind of him. Okay, so Dave is on this thing about writing a whole series about a whole book about this vortex that is not far from Kingston, the Marysville Vortex, the Bermuda Triangle of Lake Ontario, and has swallowed over 100 ships. Okay, and they have they add this to the book or looked into it for the future, which he is then followed by.
Go ahead.
Because he's obviously not listening to what I'm saying on here. That's surprising.
Wow. That's
Okay,
funny.
so it's the
I-
same
I've
thing.
never
Yeah,
heard of that.
I just
I've never
had
heard of
an
it.
answer, and I just
I'm gonna look
answered
into
it.
it.
So, so now they're off. Yes. He quite often does that when people are writing about certain areas because but that
Wow.
would go with the hauntings of Kingston. If you got some, I mean, ship hauntings are the best. I would so atmospheric and so
Yeah, you're
and
trapped.
so yeah.
You're
Yeah,
trapped.
they're
It's the Marysville Vortex,
Oh.
Booze, Boats, and Billions. It's out of print now.
Hey, now,
But
who is that by?
it's
I'm
talked
reading
about
that
in
one.
this book. That's why I'm
Oh,
familiar
really?
with it.
Oh,
Smuggling across Lake Ontario.
wow.
during
I've read
the
that and I didn't
Depression.
pick that up.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. All right. You know what?
Michelle, I'm not as smart as you. There's more room in my brain.
Oh, there's something sort of romantic about that.
I'm charming, ain't I?
Even though it doesn't quite have that, that thing. So I think the bottom line of this whole interview and the summary of it is that we all need to get together somewhere in Ontario and start fleshing this out. I mean, Brian's here. They can just go their way and we can go our way and read our female fiction. But no, I don't think it is.
Twilight?
Well, I've been that's interesting. I've never really thought about it before because you just think there's a graphic, but I wonder how many of the other how many males read Twilight. I wonder what the statistics on that
Yeah,
are.
that'd be interesting to find out, eh?
Ain't saying nothing.
And I'll know who one of those are.
Yes.
They know, but it is interesting. I thought about this. This gave me I was thinking about this a lot because when I was doing the promo things and stuff, and it is women's fiction, and that is the genre, and it's good to know that. I mean, but on the other hand, do they put men's fiction on like a shoot up thing or something on like Reacher? No, I read Reacher. And they don't put men's fiction on this.
That's true.
So I don't, because what's going to happen? Some guy's going to pick it up and then go, ah! They're talking about women's problems. Give me that Reacher. It's so much easier to deal with. So I was thinking about that, but I mean, for the time being, it's a good because it's definitely women's stories and their perspective on things. But I do have that little argument within myself. So thank you guys for coming again, and the door is always open. Knock knock. I need to read the one with the two.
The Mystical Veil? No.
No,
Harmony.
the one with the two covens.
Oh, that's the
Harmony Grove.
Midlife
Harmony
and-
Grove.
and
Okay,
Harmony
so
Grove.
I need to find out what happens with Amy. So I need to finish. And remember, the book's about hauntings, and the future one about the vortex near Kingston is under hauntings, the hauntings of Kingston.
Yes.
And the other, they're under Michelle Dorey.
Michelle Dorey, yes.
And the women's paranormal fiction
Paranormal fiction.
is under Shelley.
Yes.
Shelley
Dorey.
And her books are exclusively on Amazon, right?
They are
Or has
exclusive.
that changed?
No, the ebooks are exclusive to Amazon. Paperbacks are also available on other retailers' sites. And some of the books are in audio as well. And I also have my YouTube channel, Michelle Dorey. And you can feel free to subscribe and listen to any of the haunted books, novels that I've got up there.
And they
Therefore-
are well narrated. I've listened to those while I'm doing dishes or whatever, because like I said, there's a lot of reading I want to do and I
Yeah.
can't always, just stop to do that.
Yep.
So I put them on when I'm doing other chores about the house. And
Yeah.
sometimes the narrators are like, ooh, I don't want to do this anymore. But you can have good people
Yep.
doing
Oh,
the
yeah.
books.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
They're good narrators. Yeah. And some of them are AI as well. But, it's some people don't like that. But a lot of people, I get good feedback from it.
well,
So,
you're giving it out. You're giving people those books for free.
yes.
You know, and narrators cost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Good
So-
narrators could cost you, up to $2,500 or more.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think circumstances make those difference. Janice Richardson, who is also an author from Ontario, said it was a
really?
delightful show. Lots of merriment. Michelle and
Hey,
Jim
Jen,
are a good
thanks
team.
for the compliment.
Yes.
I
Thank
think
you.
Michelle is a wonderful person.
I think I'm the merry man.
So it was great to have you guys back again. We need to do it again. The door is always open. Just give it a knock, and maybe someday.
Okay.
We'll
All
all
right.
get
That's
together.
great. Well,
Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Vicky.
having
It was
us.
really
Okay,
great.
take
I
care.
can't believe it's
It was
been an hour.
fun. Yeah.
I
Where's
know.
the time go? It's crazy.
I can't. Okay, I Jim won't. There we go. Okay, great time all the way around. I'm just going to close off the comment section now, and for the rest of you, I'll see you next week. Until then, may your coffee be hot and your story sweet. Thanks for listening, everyone.
You are listening to